Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 11th September 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Hardan, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Hence, kindly subscribe to my vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous and future videos. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been trying to strike a relationship and connection between the three subtle bodies and the Kundalini serpent and chakra of the gross body of a human living entity, along with his or her mode of material nature plus his or her false ego. In that process, first we introduced each other with this topic and tried to find out how we can do this to convince the viewers or the average viewer in the society. Besides that, in every video of mine, we tried to analyze one particular chakra and its relationship with the subtle bodies, the mode of material nature, and the false ego. Now we have already divided the first six chakras into three pairs of two each. The first are the pair consisting of the base or root or Mooladhara chakra, the second Nabhi or Swadhisthana chakra, then the second pair which consists of the third Manipuraka chakra and the fourth Anahata chakra. These four chakras we have already discussed in detail in my previous videos. Today we shall talk about the fifth chakra in the Kundalini of a human living entity. We all know by now that the Kundalini serpent of dormant extraordinary energy, along with the seven chakras that are placed at equal distance in the spinal cord of the gross body of the human living entity, are all subtle in nature and cannot be seen with the naked eye. They are as subtle as the three subtle bodies, namely the causal body of intelligence, the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, and the etheric body of five senses, namely sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. These are subtle, and the Kundalini serpent and the Kundalini chakras and the gross body of the living entity are also subtle in nature. The other very important factor is the mode of material nature that one particular living entity, whether male or female, tries to put as a front in his or her particular lifetime. By now, we know that there are three modes of material nature. They are goodness, passion, and ignorance. All these modes of material nature are present in every human living entity, whether male or female. At any given time in his or her lifetime, the same human living entity puts at the front one of these three modes of material nature. This depends on the destiny, karma, surrounding, background, experience, knowledge, maturity, age, and evolvement of that particular human living entity. Some are happy to be in the mode of ignorance. Some want to try the mode of passion, and the others are at a meditative state of trance in the mode of goodness. It all entirely depends on the factors mentioned above. Not to say the least is the personal preference, thought, choice, etc. of the same human living entity, which also again depends on the factors as I have already mentioned in this video. Now, there is one mode of material nature that a human living entity puts at the front while living his or her lifetime in this birth. There must be some relationship between the three subtle bodies and the three modes of material nature plus the Kundalini chakras. And to cap it all is the catalyst called false ego. False ego is when one human living entity, whether male or female, conveniently forgets that he or she is originally the spirit soul and tries to identify himself or herself as the human living entity in this material world. When this spirit soul is entrapped in the three subtle bodies of causal intelligence, astral mind, and etheric senses, along with the gross body made up of four elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth. This particular person or this particular spirit soul turns its identity into a living entity. This living entity may or may not be human. It may be a tree, a worm, an insect, a plant, a weed, a creeper, a reptile, an amphibian, a beast, or a human being. Even among human beings, there are at least 400,000 various types of species. When a particular spirit soul dons its three subtle and fourth gross body to be born in this particular material world, it stops getting identified as the spirit soul but becomes what is known as a living entity. Among these living entities, we are trying to talk only about the human living entities, whether male or female. On an average, a particular human living entity is identified with his or her gross body, which is the fourth layer among the four material bodies of a particular human living entity. A particular living entity is identified by his or her gross body alone in this material society, whether he is a male or a female, an educated person, a literate person, a bodybuilder, a musician, or so on. Initially, that person is identified in this material world only by his or her gross body, and probably because of that, every living human entity identifies himself or herself with this set of material bodies, and this is known as false ego. Now we are trying to set up a connection or a relationship between the four layers of the material body, the mode of material nature that living entity is in, the Kundalini serpent of energy and the Kundalini chakras, and the false ego. This false ego acts like a glue that pastes the other three together to form a complete picture of a human being's specimen. We have already talked about the Manipuraka, the Swadhisthana, the Mooladhara, and the Anahata chakras. We know by now that the Mooladhara and the Swadhisthana chakra, which form the first pair, are directly connected to the vibrations emanating out of the etheric body of senses. The Manipuraka and the Anahata chakra are directly connected to the vibrations caused by the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions. Today, I will talk about the third pair, that is, the pair which consists of the Vishuddha chakra and the Ajna chakra. Among them, the first is known as Vishuddha chakra. Vishuddha chakra is also known as Vishuddhi chakra. It is situated at the throat of a human living entity. Just like the physical throat is a vestibule between the head of a living entity and the rest of his or her gross body. Similarly, this Vishuddha chakra is acting as a conduit between the spiritual side and the material side of the same human living entity. We all know that there are five elements that constitute the four layers of material body. They are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Of these, the ether makes up the three subtle bodies of causal intelligence, astral mind, and etheric senses. Plus, it is also the main element that forms the imaginary Kundalini serpent of energy and the Kundalini chakras. The other four elements, that is, air, fire, water, and earth, form the gross body of a human living entity, whether male or female. We must all understand this and remember this before proceeding further. Among the three modes of material nature, the first pair of Mooladhara chakra and the Swadhisthana chakra choose to use the mode of ignorance as its front. The second pair of Manipuraka chakra and the Anahata chakra choose to have the mode of passion as its or her front, whereas the third pair of Vishuddhi chakra and the Agya chakra or Agna chakra takes up the mode of goodness to use it as its own front. This is the general behavior of living entities of various chakras. We all know that when this Kundalini serpent is activated by performing various types of yoga by that living entity. According to that yoga, this Kundalini serpent gets activated, wakes up, and slithers down the tunnel in the spinal cord of that living entity and comes to rest on various chakras starting from the base or root or Mooladhara chakra. Till yesterday, this particular Kundalini serpent has already traveled the distance between the Mooladhara chakra, the Swadhisthana chakra, the Manipuraka chakra, and the Anahata chakra. Now we shall imagine or take it for granted that as on date or according to this video, the same Kundalini serpent is resting at the second of the second pair of chakras, that is the Anahata chakra. Now we have to activate again so that it may slither up to the Vishuddhi chakra. As mentioned before, this Vishuddhi chakra represents the ether element among the five elements that make up this body or four layers of body, material body of a particular human living entity. When we want that Kundalini serpent to wake up from its slumber at the Anahata chakra and travel up to the Vishuddha chakra, that particular human living entity has to knowingly or unknowingly, deliberately or otherwise, by design or by default, perform what is known as Jnana Yoga. Jnana means actually knowledge. It does not mean just the theoretical knowledge by studying books and scriptures. It is knowledge acquired by studying, practicing, and practically trying to acquire knowledge through various other means. In other words, practical training and experience and maturity in the material world play a very great role in one living entity getting jnana or knowledge. Now, this Vishuddhi chakra represents that knowledge. A person who is in that particular chakra uses his or her cerebral faculties to create scriptures, poetry, prose, etc. for the benefit of this material world. However, now we are trying to analyze the relationship between a person situated in the Vishuddha chakra and his or her relationship with the Kundalini chakras, the Kundalini serpent, the three modes of material nature, and the false ego. Suppose a person is in the Vishuddha chakra, or he or she has reached the level of Vishuddha chakra, which naturally is answerable to the causal body of intelligence and logic. This particular person is lying at the bridge between materialism and spiritualism. In other words, such a person may be interested in spiritual or in material knowledge of all kinds. He or she has not become totally spiritual. In such a case, on an average, such people listen to the causal body of intelligence. Intellectuals, lawyers, scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, professionals, etc. come under that category. They are people who choose to use their cerebral faculties and knowledge to live in this particular lifetime, in this particular birth. However, there is a possibility that the same living entity may, for some reason, choose to listen to the vibrations of the astral body of mind and emotions and feelings. In such a case, the knowledge of the same human living entity starts shunning logic and begins to listen to the emotions and feelings of that living entity. We all know that the Manipuraka chakra and the Anahata chakra are situated at the stomach and heart of a particular human living entity. In such a case, emotions and feelings of that living entity get more importance than his or her logic and intelligence. In such case, this Vishuddhi Chakra guy, who is also creative, he or she is also creative by nature, churns out prose, poetry, and lyrics which answer to the feelings and emotions of the viewers in this society. In such a case, they write romantic novels, action novels, mysterious novels, romantic poetry, romantic lyrics, emotional poetry, lyrics, or stories, etc. On the other hand, if the same person in the Vishuddhi Chakra is creative enough to think about the base side of the first pair of two chakras, that is Mooladhara and the Swadhisthana, the same creativity turns into violent prose, lusty poetry, sensuous prose, sensuous poetry, then those prose or poems, etc., which incite the base nature of violence, action, etc., in the person who reads such prose or tries to enact those creative pieces of art by the same Vishuddhi Chakra human being. Such is the relationship between vibrations caused by the three subtle bodies and the various chakras in the human living entity's body. Furthermore, if this happens and this person chooses to leave the mode of goodness for the mode of passion or ignorance, his or her knowledge will be applied into churning out information or thesis or writings about commerce, business, trade, industry, performing arts, wrestling, strongman, boxing, athletics, etc., depending upon the choice of that living entity. Yellow journalism, sports journalism, financial journalism, financial topics, for topics relating to sports, etc., belong to such intellectuals who are intelligent enough to be in the Vishuddhi chakra but want to concentrate on the Anahata chakra, Manipuraka chakra, Swadhisthana chakra, or the Mool Adhara chakra. Yellow journalism also belongs to such a category. People who are firmly placed in the causal body of intelligence will usually write about topics of the material kind only, but of a very refined category, say the educational types, history, geography, economics, philosophy, psychology, medicine, etc., including research and analysis of various types. Thus, a person in the Vishuddhi chakra can be categorized according to his or her preference of the mode or the platform in the society of physical stature or social stature of that particular living entity. One may choose to be an intellectual who gathers knowledge about the first pair of Mool Adhara and Swadhisthana, or listen to the heart and stomach of that living entity and concentrate on Manipuraka and Anahata chakra, commerce, trade, business, industry, distribution, marketing, sales, performing arts, dances, painting, etc., or he or she may be happy living in the intellectual and logical side of research and analysis of various subjects: medicine, engineering, doctrine, law, constitutional law, education, history, geography, economics, etc. It all depends, depends on the factors mentioned before, which result in the taste and preference of that particular living entity who is delving in the Vishuddha chakra. Furthermore, even here, the false ego and the understanding of that living entity plays a very large part in his or her choice of subject for his or her cerebral and intellectual pursuits. This we must understand very well before proceeding further. In other words, we must know that even a person in the Vishuddhi chakra, which is the first among the three pairs of Kundalini uh, chakras in a human living entity, even then that person may choose some subject or the other which caters to the Manipuraka chakra, the Anahata chakra, the Mool Adhar chakra, and the Swadhisthana chakra. This is all I wanted to tell you about the Vishuddha chakra, which is activated by Jnana Yoga. I have tried to analyze this Vishuddha chakra in as much detail as possible for me to analyze on. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular subject in this particular video. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, ideas, and views so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before proceeding further, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.